answer some of these questions. But I've got a bill that addresses a situation that we faced in the last couple of years in South Dakota. We've had 2 fires that have burned out of control, started by the Forest Service, which damaged a lot of property, cost people in western South Dakota a lot of money, and never acceptance of responsibility by the Forest Service or any attempt to make whole some of these people who were affected by this. It happened 2 years ago up in northwestern South Dakota, and then more recently here this year in the Black Hills near Wind Cave. And so I introduced a bill that very simply would just require collaboration with with the state, local entities before these prescribed burns are initiated. And so I guess I would appreciate the question from Secretary Bonney about any information that he might have about the number of claims filed over the past 10 years resulting from prescribed burns that damage private property and the number of claims that were actually paid. Do you have that information? If so, could you provide it to me in the near future?
I'm sure we have it. I don't have it with me, but happy to provide that.
Would you support providing the Secretary with discretionary authority to pay upon receipt of credible claims indemnity payments under $25,000 or some other appropriate cap rather than forcing claimants to wait 2 years or more?
Yeah, the 2-year wait is clearly a challenge for many producers. I think what I said earlier today is that welcome a conversation about more that we can do to make landowners right. It's not in our interest to have folks out there that are feeling like they're slighted by the federal agencies. So welcome the conversation. Not exactly sure the right mechanism. As you know, we try to do things both with EQIP as well as look at some other programs, but I think we very much welcome that conversation. Well,
if we could, because you know particularly the Patre fire up in near Lemon, South Dakota, with several years now past, and this process just drags on and on and on. These people are left in just a state of complete uncertainty. You provide in your testimony that an accelerated claims process could benefit individuals who've suffered damages resulting from an escaped prescribed fire when these unfortunate events occurred. Do you have any suggestions about how an accelerated claims process could be implemented?
So I mentioned earlier that I'm nervous about, you got the wrong guy up here if you want to talk about the Federal Tort Claims Act. That's a DOJ issue, but I do think there are other things we could do. There are other programs. We could look at, you know, livestock disaster programs and others that might allow us to act more quickly here. So I think, again, we're open to those conversations with you all and recognize that it's going to be important, not just for these landowners, but frankly for prescribed fire going forward.
Okay, and I appreciate that how we deal with these after the fact, but I also think that, and this is why we filed the bill, is on the front end before these things are started. People who understand these conditions, you know, the foresters had no business in a couple of these circumstances starting fires given the weather conditions that were existing at the time. And people at the local level would know that. So all we're asking for is consultation on the front end before this happens and work with folks and get their sign off. And then on the back end, when something like this happens, a response that is actually timely, expedited, and effective. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to make those.
Secretary.